On June 6, 1944, Allied forces launched Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious invasion in history, aiming to liberate Western Europe from Nazi control. Over 156,000 troops from the United States, Britain, Canada, and other nations landed on 5 beaches in Normandy, France. Despite meticulous planning and deceptive tactics, the operation faced formidable German defenses, resulting in significant casualties. Nonetheless, the success of D-Day marked a pivotal turning point in World War II, leading to the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. By 1943, the Allies had begun to turn the tide against Nazi Germany. Victories in North Africa and Italy proved that a large-scale campaign on the European continent was now both possible and necessary. To break Hitler's grip on Western Europe, the Allies planned the largest amphibious invasion in history, Operation Overlord. The goal of Operation Overlord was to land Allied forces on the beaches of Normandy, France, and establish a foothold from which to push inland and liberate Western Europe. Planning began in earnest following the Tehran Conference in November 1943, where the Big Three leaders, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin, agreed on opening a second front in the West. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, faced an immense logistical and strategic challenge. A combined force of American, British, Canadian, and other Allied troops would have to cross the English Channel and assault heavily fortified German positions along the French coast. The success of the operation depended on deception, precise coordination, favorable weather, and speed. Operation Bodyguard, a series of elaborate deception campaigns, was implemented to mislead the Germans about the time and place of the invasion. Fake armies, inflatable tanks, double agents, and false radio transmissions convinced Hitler that the main attack would come at Pas de Calais, rather than Normandy. Choosing Normandy allowed for sufficient beachhead space and was less heavily defended, though it still posed significant challenges. The terrain included cliffs, bocage, hedgerows, and tidal flats. German defenses, part of the so-called Atlantic Wall, featured mines, bunkers, anti-tank obstacles, and machine gun nests. The invasion would involve nearly 156,000 Allied troops landing on 5 beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword, along with over 11,000 aircraft and 7,000 naval vessels. Airborne divisions would parachute inland to capture key bridges, disrupt German communications, and delay reinforcements. The date of the assault was initially set for June 5, 1944, but bad weather forced a 24-hour delay. With limited windows for tides, moonlight, and naval support, June 6 was chosen as the optimal moment. In the early hours of D-Day, Eisenhower gave the final go-ahead with his iconic words, "Okay, let's go." The largest seaborne invasion in history was underway, an operation that would decide the fate of Europe. Section 2. Airborne Operations Behind Enemy Lines. Before the first wave of seaborne troops set foot on the beaches of Normandy, thousands of Allied paratroopers were already landing deep behind German lines. Their mission was crucial: to seize key terrain, destroy communication hubs, block reinforcements, and sow confusion in the enemy's rear. The success of the landings on the beaches depended in large part on these daring nighttime operations. 2 American divisions, the 82nd and 101st Airborne, and 1 British division, the 6th Airborne, were tasked with jumping into Normandy in the early hours of June 6, 1944. Operation Neptune, the airborne component of Overlord, began just after midnight. Despite meticulous planning, the airborne drops were fraught with danger and unpredictability. American paratroopers, flying in C-47 transport aircraft across the English Channel, faced heavy German anti-aircraft fire and poor visibility due to fog and darkness. Many units were scattered far from their designated drop zones. Some paratroopers landed in flooded fields or enemy-held towns, while others dropped into hedgerows or trees, becoming easy targets or suffering injuries upon landing. The 101st Airborne Division's objectives included securing causeways off Utah Beach, disrupting German lines of communication, and holding the town of Carentan. The 82nd was assigned to capture the strategic crossroads at Sainte-Mère-Église, one of the first towns liberated on D-Day, and secure bridges over the Meurthe River. Despite the chaos, the airborne troops demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Small units, often led by junior officers and NCOs, gathered ad hoc fighting groups and achieved many of their goals. They ambushed German patrols, seized vital road junctions, and prevented reinforcements from reaching the beaches. To the east, British 6th Airborne Division parachuted and glided into the area around the Orne River and Pegasus Bridge. Their mission was to secure the eastern flank of the invasion, destroy bridges over the Dives River to block German counterattacks, and hold high ground. In a textbook example of airborne coordination, British glider troops captured Pegasus Bridge in a daring assault within minutes of landing. These airborne actions disoriented German commanders and fractured their response. With limited information and under heavy assault across a wide front, German forces were unable to mount a coordinated counterattack in the critical first hours of the invasion. The success of the paratroopers bought the beach landings precious time and space. The price was high. Many airborne units suffered heavy casualties during the landings, from enemy fire, misdrops, and harsh terrain. But their bravery and tenacity proved vital to the overall success of Operation Overlord. The skies over Normandy on the night of June 5–6 were filled with parachutes, tracer fire, and the thunder of engines, heralding the beginning of liberation. The westernmost beaches of the Normandy invasion, Utah and Omaha, were assigned to American forces. These sectors presented vastly different challenges and outcomes on D-Day, with Utah achieving relative success and Omaha becoming one of the bloodiest battlegrounds of the invasion. Utah Beach was assaulted by the U.S. 4th Infantry Division under Major General Raymond Barton, supported by airborne troops from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Located on the Cotentin Peninsula, Utah's landing was aided by strong naval and airborne support. Due to strong currents and misnavigation, the 4th Infantry Division landed over 2,000 yards south of their intended landing point, but this mistake proved fortuitous. The area where they landed was less heavily defended, and resistance was comparatively light. U.S. forces quickly moved inland, linking with paratroopers already engaged behind enemy lines. By the end of June 6th, Utah Beach was firmly in Allied hands, with fewer than 200 American casualties, remarkably low given the scale of the operation. The troops advanced toward their objectives, including the strategic town of Sainte-Mère-Église and the vital causeways through the flooded lowlands. Utah's success enabled the swift buildup of men and materials in the days that followed. Omaha Beach, by contrast, was a crucible of chaos and heroism. Assigned to the U.S. 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions, Omaha was heavily defended by German troops of the 352nd Infantry Division, well entrenched in bunkers, trenches, and fortified positions along the bluffs. As landing craft approached at dawn, many were met with fierce machine gun and artillery fire. The beach's geography, a narrow strip bordered by cliffs and open killing fields, left little cover for advancing troops. Many landing craft were destroyed or swamped, and those that reached shore faced a hail of bullets. Engineers tasked with clearing beach obstacles were cut down before they could complete their work. Units became disorganized as leaders were killed and communication broke down. Casualties were staggering. Over 2,000 Americans were killed, wounded, or went missing at Omaha Beach on June 6th alone. Yet despite the carnage, small groups of soldiers began to break through. Under relentless fire, they scaled cliffs, flanked German positions, and slowly neutralized enemy strongpoints. By the afternoon, a tenuous beachhead had been established. The courage shown at Omaha became emblematic of D-Day's sacrifice. While the cost was immense, the foothold gained at Omaha was crucial. It prevented the Germans from launching counterattacks on adjacent beaches and allowed the Allies to consolidate their western front. The experiences at Utah and Omaha demonstrated the unpredictability of war and the unyielding resolve of those who fought. While American forces fought bitter battles on Utah and Omaha, British and Canadian troops stormed 3 beaches to the east: Gold, Juno, and Sword. These sectors were vital for linking up with airborne troops on the eastern flank and capturing the city of Caen, a key objective in the days following the landings. Gold Beach was assigned to the British 50th Northumbrian Infantry Division, supported by elements of the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force. The beach was heavily fortified with anti-tank walls, machine gun nests, and artillery batteries. Despite a delayed start due to rough seas, the British forces advanced with determination. Specialized armored vehicles known as Hobart's Funnies proved essential, clearing mines and bridging gaps under fire. Fierce fighting erupted near the towns of Les Hamel and Asnelles. British troops pressed inland despite German resistance and obstacles, securing a link with the Canadians on Juno and pushing toward the town of Bayeux, which would be liberated the following day. By the evening of June 6th, British forces had established a strong beachhead and moved several miles inland. Part 2.